The mom heard humming in the shower, and when she learned why, she called for help. Whether it's a mysterious creak or rattle, houses can make some pretty strange noises throughout the day. But the Grahams had to contend with a very distinct sound. Humming. And it only got louder as time went on, ratcheting up the tension. What could it be? An expert eventually uncovered the cause, and it left the family dumbstruck. We hope you aren't squeamish, folks. The discovery was truly a sight to behold. So, where did this incident take place? And when? Well, the story came to light at the back end of 2021 in the Sunshine State of Florida. Yet there wasn't much in the way of sunshine in the Graham household thanks to their noisy problem. Residents of St. Petersburg, Florida, Dan and Stephanie Graham live in a stilt house with wooden bodywork that's 3 stories high. The pair have 2 kids together, as well as a couple of dogs. So you can imagine that there was already quite a bit of noise filling their rooms and hallways. Plus, Stephanie would have been all too aware of how odd houses can be when it comes to strange sounds. You see, she has a part-time job within the real estate sector, alongside her main career as a school teacher. This was different, though. Once the family picked up on the noise, it became relentless. You don't get that with random creaks. But this leads us to the big question. Where was the sound coming from inside the house? Could it be pinpointed by the Grahams? In the end, Stephanie, Dan, and their kids were able to narrow it down to one room in particular. Yes, the sound seemed excessively loud in their bathroom. Could it have been the pipes? After all, they can get pretty noisy. Well, if Stephanie and company were leaning in that direction, they soon received proof that something else was to blame. As it turns out, the humming was actually buzzing. Simply put, the Grahams had a bee problem. The Floridian family began to notice the noisy critters on a consistent basis inside the bathroom, or more specifically, near their shower. But here's the thing, folks. Neither Dan nor Stephanie were particularly surprised to learn about their boogie visitors. Why's that, then? The Grahams had previous with these winged creepy crawlies a few years earlier. And those encounters had come in their bathroom, too. It all culminated when Dan decided to finally tear down part of a wall to find out where they were hiding. Incredibly, he went on to locate a very large hive on the other side. Dan carefully took the hive out from behind the wall, thinking that'd be the end of it. And for a while at least, it seemed that way. He and Stephanie didn't see any more bees, and they opted to make some adjustments to the house's exterior. The pair really zoned in on their roof. Mind you, that ultimately came at a cost. While sorting out the roof, several openings appeared above Stephanie and Dan's home. It's believed that other bees saw this as a prime opportunity to get inside, and they didn't waste their chance. From there, the relentless humming eventually started to fill the air. That must have been pretty frustrating for the Grahams, right? They were back at square one. Well, not quite. You see, Dan and Stephanie didn't really mind that bees had made a home inside their house again. The pair were willing to put up with it, from the sounds to the odd stinger too. Why, though? Stephanie provided an answer while speaking to the New York Times in December 2021. The mom explained, "We both really love nature and we love bees. We're like, we leave you alone. You leave us alone." They were nice bees. So we were like, sure, go ahead, live in our shower. Yet unfortunately for the bees, this wholesome arrangement couldn't last forever. Stephanie and Dan made plans to restructure their entire bathroom, which meant the second hive behind the wall needed to go. This time, though, they didn't want to do it themselves. Instead, the couple called in a specialist. Yep, Dan and Stephanie spoke to a woman named Alicia Bixler in the fall of 2021. She runs a beekeeping business known as How's Your Day Honey, which includes services such as bee removal. Sounds like the perfect person for the job, right? Anyway, Alicia soon discovered that this wouldn't be the easiest of tasks. Ahead of arriving at the Grahams' home, Alicia had racked up roughly 3 years' worth of experience as a beekeeper. Up to then, most of the hives she dealt with were located in spots such as trees, roofs, and garden sheds. So a family bathroom was a new one for her. Alicia eventually dropped by the house in November 2021 to get to work. But before she could do anything else, the expert needed to confirm that there was indeed a beehive behind the bathroom wall. To do that, she equipped herself with a thermal detector gun, a device that records temperatures. Given that most of the bees were near the shower, Alicia knew where to look. So, she directed the gun at that area, bringing up a measurement of about 96 degrees Fahrenheit. That all but confirmed that a hive of some sort was back there, as they generate a similar amount of warmth. Now, the beekeeper could finally get started. Unlike for Dan a few years earlier, this was a job Alicia would have been more than familiar with at the time. After all, she was a professional. But still, we can't help wondering how risky the task actually is. Well, beekeeping as a whole isn't without its dangers, regardless of your experience level. Yes, depending on the type of bee you're dealing with, there are certain risks to take note of. For instance, if you're facing down European honeybees, you've got to be careful near their hive's entrance. By disturbing it, or even just approaching its vicinity, you could encourage the insects to attack. And that's not all. On top of that, European honeybees hate shaking as well. So if you're transporting a hive from one place to another, you've got to take your time. Motion will undoubtedly create tremors and make them extremely angry. Those two risks in particular probably would have been at the forefront of Alicia's mind then. Yet nothing could prepare her for what was coming. Once she put her thermal gun away, Alicia then looked to make inroads on the bathroom wall. Speaking to the New York Times in December 2021, she recalled, "As soon as I saw where the bees were, I started breaking away the tile and unveiled this massive 7-foot hive. Most of it was honey. That isn't a typo, folks, 7 feet. Talk about a big surprise." While the hive taken out by Dan was sizable, it had nothing on this monster. But now we're really curious. How many bees were actually staying inside that humongous structure? Well, we hope you're sitting down. Ready? Okay then. Alicia suspected that roughly 80,000 bees had made their home in the Graham's bathroom wall. Holy smokes. No wonder the humming was so loud. That's crazy. How did all of this happen, though? In the opinion of another expert, the critters that had stayed there before might have had something to do with it. Yes, an insect specialist from the University of California, Davis, named Robert Page Jr. believed that a certain scent played a key role. You see, bees and their hives leave a lingering smell when removed that can draw in further colonies. This obviously would have been an extreme example of that. Anyway, when Alicia managed to pick her jaw up off the floor, she needed to devise a strategy. How on earth could she get this thing out of the bathroom? Well, to start with, the beekeeper stuck a protective covering over her head before approaching the hive. Yet she soon discovered that wouldn't be enough. While carefully chipping away at the giant structure, Alicia suffered a few bee stings. On that note, she decided to slip on some thick boots and gloves for the rest of job. And oh boy, what a messy job it turned out to be, as the specialist explained to the New York Times. Alicia told the newspaper, "There was honey everywhere, on the walls, floor, on my shoes, the doorknobs. I had to pull the wall down to the studs to get all of the comb out." Stephanie did come into the bathroom about halfway through and take a peek. Winnie the Pooh would have been in dreamland. As for the bees, Alicia slowly moved them into a container away from the hive, looking out for one in particular. Yep, she wanted to locate the queen. The critter wouldn't have been hard to miss, she's a lot bigger than any of the others in the colony. And after a while, the expert finally stumbled across her. From there, Alicia dropped the queen into a protective cage by herself. Once she was secured, the cage was then positioned in the container. The beekeeper explained, "That makes all the bees go into the box with her. She wants to be back in her wall. She thinks that's her home." At that stage, Alicia could zone in on those that didn't follow the queen, picking them up via so-called special vacuum. In total, the mammoth job lasted over 5 hours. As we noted earlier, rushing it would be extremely risky. She went on to charge the Grahams $800 for her services. And nope, the home insurance didn't cover it. Anyway, how did Stephanie and company react to all this as it was going on? We know they like bees, but still, were they frightened by the sight of so many of them? No chance. The mom told the New York Times, "I know a lot of people would be freaked out." Speaking of which, that brings us on to what Alicia did next. You see, before she really got stuck into the hive, the specialist pulled out her phone and recorded some footage of it. Then, she posted the resulting video on her TikTok page in November 2021 for users to marvel at, the footage itself is incredible, highlighting that honey was literally dripping from the top of the hive. There's also a great shot of Alicia scraping the sticky substance off the surface with a huge group of bees to the side of her hand. It's crazy to think this thing was just sitting behind a shower. The video proved to be a massive hit on TikTok, racking up around 3.5 million views at the time of writing. It's earned close to 760,000 likes and generated more than 5,000 comments as well. People just couldn't get enough of the footage. It isn't every day that a clip goes viral thanks to a beehive. Away from TikTok though, what were Alicia's plans for the bathroom bees? Well, she intended to take them back to her bee facility in St. Petersburg, where she'd look after them for a spell. But surely all that movement would have aggravated them, right? How could the specialist settle them down? In truth, the task isn't as daunting as you might think. There are several steps beekeepers can take to relax their bees, and they aren't that complex. Using Alicia's situation as an example, a limited human presence can do wonders for the colony once they've been moved to a different spot. Sure, a bit of interaction's necessary to observe the hive and the honey being produced, but you shouldn't linger for too long. Your handling's another thing to consider. Remember what we said about that before. The less you shake up a colony when tending to them, the better. No matter how comfortable the bees got with Alicia, though, they weren't staying with her long term. Instead, after ensuring that the colony was well enough, she'd be sending them off to a new home. A nice apiary has to be a step up from a bathroom wall, wouldn't you say? As for the copious amounts of honey from the hive, Alicia suspected that the weight of it came to around 100 pounds. She took a chunk of it back to her place for the bees, well the Grahams had a bit too. I told them they had an option of just biting into that comb, or you can put it into a colander and squeeze out the honey, the beekeeper recalled. Anyway, given that we started this story with Stephanie and her family, it seems fitting that they should bring it to a close. As Alicia was moving the bees out the bathroom, the mom of two felt compelled to say something. She recalled to the New York Times, "I did tell the bees goodbye and that they were getting a new house. We wonder if she'll miss all that humming."